We're now going to solve a polynomial equation. We have x cubed plus 9x squared plus 16x minus 6 is equal to 0. In order to solve this, we can use synthetic division to help us, but let's go ahead and list our possible rational zeros. And those are going to be factors of the constant term, plus or minus 6, divided by factors of the leading coefficient, which is 1. So our possible rational zeros that we can try will be plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 6, all divided by plus or minus 1. So I'll just simply try plus or minus 1, then plus or minus 2, and so on. So let's use synthetic division to do that. Starting with 1, I'll put my coefficients down. I have 1, 9, 16, negative 6. Bring down the 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 9 plus 1 is 10. 1 times 10 is 10. 16 plus 10 is 26. 1 times 26 is 26. Negative 6 plus 26 is a remainder of 20. So this is not a 0. Only when I get a remainder of 0 is the value I chose a 0. So let's move on to, let's try negative 1. 1, 9, 16, negative 6. Bring down the 1. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. When we add 9 plus negative 1, we get 8. Negative 1 times 8 is negative 8. When we add 16 plus negative 8, we get 8. Negative 1 times 8 is negative 8. In this case, when we add, our remainder is negative 14. So negative 1 doesn't work. Let's try 2. 1, 9, 16, negative 6. Bring down the 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 9 plus 2 is 11. 2 times 11 is 22. 16 plus 22 is 38. 2 times 38 is 76. Negative 6 plus 76 gives us a remainder of 70. So we need to keep trying. Let's try negative 2. 1, 9, 16, negative 6. Bring down the 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. 9 plus negative 2 is 7. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. 16 plus negative 14 is 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. In this case, when we add, our remainder is negative 10. Let's try positive 3. Our coefficients 1, 9, 16, negative 6. Bring down the 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 9 plus 3 is 12. 3 times 12 is 36. 16 plus 36 is 52. 3 times 52 is 156. Negative 6 plus 156 is 150. So that didn't work. Let's keep going. Let's try negative 3. 1, 9, 16, negative 6. Bring down the 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. 9 plus negative 3 is 6. Negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. 16 plus negative 18 is negative 2. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. And when we add negative 6 and positive 6, we do get our remainder of 0. Now, we have our first 0. Our first solution or root to this equation is that x is equal to negative 3. But we know that we have 2 more roots because our leading coefficient has a degree of 3. So there are 3 roots. So this last line using synthetic division, when I took x cubed plus 9x squared plus 16x minus 6 and I divided it really by x plus 3, I got this. 1 times x squared plus 6 times x minus 2. So we can find the other 2 roots by solving this equation, this quadratic equation. So let's do that. So we see that when we used x equals negative 3, that was a root to this equation, and we had left x squared plus 6x minus 2. What that really means is that our function x cubed plus 9x squared plus 16x minus 6 equals 0 can be written as two different factors. Can be written as the factor of x plus 3, because remember it's really x minus negative 3, times this other factor, x squared plus 6x minus 2. So we know already that x equals negative 3 is a 0, or it's a root. We got that by setting x plus 3 equal to 0, or x equals negative 3. The other two roots we can get by setting this quadratic function equal to 0. X squared plus 6x minus 2 equals 0. This doesn't look like it will factor, so let's go ahead and use the quadratic formula. And we have x equals negative b, which is 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 6 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 2, all over 2 times a, which is 1. So we get negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 36, minus 4 times negative 2 becomes plus 8, all over 2, and that simplifies to negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 44, all over 2. 44 is 4 times 11. So when we take the square root of 4, we get negative 6 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 11 over 2. If we factor a 2 out of the numerator and divide it with the 2 in the denominator, we'll end up with our last two roots. And I'll write those up here. X will equal negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 11. So we have a total of 3 solutions. X equals negative 3, and also x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 11.